This is the iPhone 13 Pro. Yo, so the new iPhone has come along, and first thing I want to say is every new addition that's come to this iPhone in comparison to last year is a positive. Any complaints I have are the same complaints that I've had last year, but overall I have a lot of good things to say about this phone. This phone is very similar to last year, and the iPhone 13 is even more similar to the iPhone 12. But just because it's a very similar phone, because people love to attack that as soon as it comes out. Oh, this phone basically hasn't changed. They moved this there and that was it. That's how you make a new iPhone. Yes, in some cases it's very similar to that. The changes are very minute, but why is that a bad thing if the previous phone was already quite good? So that's one thing, but there are a few changes. I'm gonna list those changes now, and then we're gonna get more in depth into those changes later on. But before we do that, we're just gonna look at more general things. But anyway, the changes are: number 1, the cameras; number 2, the battery; number 3, the processor; number 4, the display. Those are where the changes are at, and we will get more in depth into them. But let's start off with the first thing you see in an iPhone is its build and its design. It's the first thing you feel as well. Just like last year, this iPhone feels and looks, I think, very, very nice. I'm not a fan of the notch in the front. It is smaller this year, which is a change in the display, by the way. No functional change, it's just there just to make the iPhone look newer for sales purposes. But overall, I mean, that camera bump, that design, that brick-like, square-like design, I personally really love. It looks good, it looks clean, it looks high quality, and then when you hold it, especially in comparison to the 13 Pro feels even more premium because of the materials used. So instead of a glossy glass on the back, you're getting a matte glass, which almost everybody I've ever asked has preferred. Matte glass just looks much better. You don't get those fingerprints, it looks cleaner, it looks more premium. Secondly, it has a stainless steel frame instead of aluminum on the 13. But this is the same as last year for the 12 Pro. But that is also a very premium feature, and it makes the phone feel and look very nice. And overall, it adds a bit of heft to the phone in terms of the weight, which it's not like too much to the point where it could be dysfunctional in any way. It's just a feature that kind of makes it feel a bit more premium and a bit more high quality. But one thing about that stainless steel frame is if your hands are even a little bit sweaty, it gets really slippery. Really, I came to realize this when I was filming some shots for the iPhone. So I was holding it from above on the frame, but it's just, I don't know, just someone, that's a nitpicky thing. It doesn't really matter, but just so you know. But then also, talking about the design, look at that blue color. Look at that Sierra blue color. Wow. Every person who's come across this color has mentioned how amazing it is. And I'm with them on this. Apple recently, these like subtle blue colors that they've been coming out with, I love them. Now, that's basically it for the build and design. One little extra thing, by the way, though, is that the phone is a little bit thicker, a really small amount thicker, like 0.3 millimeters or something, and a little bit heavier because the battery is bigger, which brings me on to the internals, the battery and the processor. So firstly, the battery. This is one of the best upgrades in this phone, and it's a very good upgrade. I've tested quite a few phones during my short experience as a reviewer, but I've tested some of the latest ones for the past year or 2 years, and this is probably one of, or maybe the best battery life I've found on a phone. I reckon with light use, this could last you 2 days on one charge. In terms of my screen time, I was getting about, let's say, 6 to 7 hours. 7 hours being like the best case scenario, which is really good. In terms of charging speeds, though, it's still absolutely nothing special, and it's not really close to the competition. It caps out at about 18 watts of charging, which isn't the best. It's okay, but it's the same as you would expect, especially in comparison to the 12 or 11. Now, another change in terms of the internals on top of the battery is also the processor. This is standard. Every year there's a new processor, it goes up by one number, A14 Bionic, now the A15 Bionic, and it's a 5nm chip, meaning there's like a lot of transistors on it, and so it's very powerful. And it is like the most powerful chip in a smartphone, which is good, you know, it's future-proof and all of that. It's not necessarily noticeably more powerful than some of the latest Androids or even the 12 Pro if you're to buy that now. But it allows for new features, such as the cinematic mode, which is a new camera feature that we're going to get into later. But that's a feature that requires a lot of processing and a lot of power, and this works very well for that. So just having these great processors does future-proof the phone for future updates and allowing new features to efficiently work on this phone. Now the processor obviously controls the software, which is a quick thing I want to talk about. We're getting a new update with this phone, iOS 15. And I really like this update. iOS is continuously getting better. It's getting more customizable, but it's also keeping what's so special about iPhone, which is their optimization and the refinement in their software and UI design, having this unison because they follow this organized set of UI rules and techniques that apply everywhere in the iPhone, and it makes the iPhone experience very nice. On top of this, iOS 15 has some new features. A feature particularly that I wanted to point out that I've been using that I really liked are the new work modes and that kind of thing. So it's like do not disturb, but you get to customize it a little bit more. So I have different modes of work mode, for example, where it only lets notifications in for certain apps and only lets calls in from certain people. And other than that, it's basically do not disturb, and it's regulated, automatically works from one time to a certain time, certain days of the week. And it honestly does make a difference. And this is just one thing. There's also things like now in images and photos, if you take photos of like some handwriting, you can copy and paste it the same way you can copy and paste normal text on the phone. And there's a bunch of other quick things, but iOS 15, quickly want to say, I love the new update. Now the final change before we get on to the new cameras is the display. The display now is 120 Hz, which if you know anything about gaming monitors, you probably would have heard of like 144 Hz and 60 Hz and that kind of thing. Basically what it means is, before this, iPhone screens used to refresh at 60 Hz, meaning the screen would refresh 60 times per second, but now it's 120 Hz, it refreshes 120 times per second. This makes it feel much more smooth and much more lifelike and gives this illusion that it feels much faster, which overall just gives a more premium, smoother experience to the phone. A lot of people really like this. I'm definitely a fan. It was long overdue because it was an industry standard at this point, but I'm happy it's here. The final change with the display, which I briefly mentioned earlier, is you're getting a smaller notch. This isn't a functional change whatsoever, it's just a design change, just to make the phone look newer. Like I said, makes it more attractive to buyers to buy this phone. But there's nothing special about this. Inside the notch, as there is every year, are the sensors for Face ID. Quickly want to say, I hate Face ID. It is a very secure way of biometrically scanning your face to allow access into your phone and make payments and stuff all over the phone. But I hate it. It works like 70% of the time. Sometimes I'll be sitting at an angle and the phone will be right in my face and it will just refuse to work for no reason. Of course, there's the mask situation. I don't blame Apple for this, but it is a thing. And overall, to sum up Face ID, when it works well, it works very well. It's very fast, very seamless, very good. But when it doesn't work well, it's incredibly annoying. And the rate in which it works well in comparison to it not working well is like 70% working well, 30% not. So that's why I don't like Face ID. Now for the cameras. Now the cameras are probably the biggest update this year, and they're a big and good update. Right off the bat, I'm gonna say this is the best video phone, and it is potentially the best photo camera. So the camera here is really good. What you're getting here are three 12 megapixel sensors. One is an ultra wide, one is a main, and then there is a 3x telephoto lens in comparison to the 2x of last year, which I really like. It's more functional, it offers more. If you're gonna put in an optical zoom lens, 3x is better than 2x. First thing you'll notice is the camera bump is massive, especially in comparison to last year, and in general, it's a really big thing. Every time I've given this phone to someone, the first thing they notice is the massive cameras on the back. This is because there are larger sensors, and the best sensor is definitely the main sensor. It looks really, really good, and it's been improved the best, and it's larger, so you get more of that natural background blur with product photography and that kind of thing, plus other improvements. So there's a change in the main, there's a change in the telephoto, and then when we go to the ultra wide, a change is it does macro shots now, meaning you can get the camera really, really close to the subject and still be in focus and capture really close-up detail, which is very, very nice. In terms of camera software, as soon as you open the camera app, the first thing you'll see is it's going to give you the option to use different picture modes. So you get an option such as the standard one, or a more contrast heavy option, a warmer look, a cooler look, that kind of thing. This is something I really like. Instantly I changed it to the contrasty one because I feel like images with slightly more contrast just look more appealing. But then the feature that everybody was talking about that I just previously mentioned was cinematic mode. Now, you would think it's a manual mode where you can control aperture and shutter speed and that kind of thing. You can't. This is more of like a smart feature. What it exactly does is it's basically portrait video, but it does it very, very well. And plus it does this thing where if there's someone looking at the camera and someone behind that person, if the person in the front looks towards the person in the back, then the person in the front goes out of focus and the person in the back goes in focus. Then if the guy at the front turns around again, then the person in the front is in focus, the person in the back isn't. So that is pretty cool. But then if you use cinematic mode with the telephoto lens, it makes it look like it's being shot on like a 200mm lens. So it looks really cool, gives off this really nice effect. And this feature is not perfect. It's far from perfect. It is more of a cool thing than it is professional. But it's the best version of portrait video that I've ever seen in a phone. And with new processors, new technology, I see this improving very, very nicely. Anyway, let's look at more videos and photos. So this is the ultra wide. It's the worst of the three in my opinion, as is the case in pretty much all phones. And then the main is obviously the most powerful one. It's the one with the most work, the most technology, and usually ends up looking the best. So this is definitely an example of that. The detail, the dynamic range, the colors, everything about it I like, and I don't really overdo it with the sharpening. I also had a lot of fun with video on the telephoto lens because I think it looked very, very cinematic. It straight up is the best video I've ever seen on any telephoto lens. Now you may have seen these on my Instagram, which is why you should follow me on my Instagram, but these look stunning, especially the main and telephoto shot. But generally you'll notice that a lot of the image processing is done very, very nicely. You know, there's not too much sharpening, there's not too much contrast, the colors are on point, the contrast is on point, the detail looks really, really good, the dynamic range looks on point, and overall I love the camera shots that come out of this phone, and I love the versatility you get from an ultra wide to a 3x zoom. And a lot of phones I feel like they always compromise the telephoto, but I'm very happy here to see that I feel like the 3x telephoto here has been done very, very well, and it definitely wasn't compromised in comparison to the rest. Every year I'd see the iPhone cameras and I think they're good, you know, they're high end, they're pretty much at the top, but they're not at the very top. But this year it's a little different. This year I look at these cameras and I think it is one of, if not the best. And if you are looking for the best camera in a phone, especially a video camera, then iPhone is probably the way to go. Now I'd like to conclude. Firstly, I'd like to say I'm not an iPhone guy. I'm more of an Android guy. The reason being is iPhones are a safer, more luxurious bet in my opinion in general, but Androids are generally a more interesting bet and also can be much more luxurious, but not necessarily safer. And there is this level of inconsistency within Android software and different Android phones and that kind of thing. But since you've clicked on this video, you're probably someone who is looking for the iPhone experience anyway. So considering that you're looking for the iPhone experience, this is a really nice phone. And it does offer a lot for no money, and it's 1000% at the top of the iPhone experience if you're looking for that iPhone experience. Now when I say it's at the top, I don't just mean it's at the top of an experience which isn't good, so it's still not good. I mean it's at the top, but it's also at a very high standard, which at this price it should be, but it is. And that makes it valuable and worth the money, simply if you are someone looking for a high-end iPhone experience. So if that is what you're looking for, I do suggest this phone. If you're looking for a bigger version of it, I suggest the Max, and you should go watch another video on that. But that's basically all I have to say for the review. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and give this video a like and comment for the sake of the algorithm. Check out my Instagram at El-Naggar for behind the scenes perspective and new information like my new iOS 15 icons, which are coming out soon, and plus I was posting some sample photos and just more information in general. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Salam.